My sister kept saying she could raise my kids better than I could, so I dropped them off at her house with a custody petition. Vanessa tapped her wine glass with her ring, that sharp, demanding sound that made everyone stop talking. She stood up at the head of my own dining table like she owned the place. I have something to say about my nephew and niece. My stomach dropped. Not tonight. Not at my daughter's birthday party. Lily was turning 7 and had been excited about this for weeks, but Vanessa's voice carried that edge it got when she was about to publicly humiliate someone, usually me. These beautiful children deserve so much better than what they're getting. She gestured toward Milo and Lily, who were sitting quietly in the corner with their cake. Look how well behaved they are when I'm around. Look how they listen to me. My hands started shaking. 12 people were staring at us now. My neighbors, my co-workers, my friends, all waiting to see what would happen next between the sisters who never got along. Vanessa, please don't do this here. My voice came out smaller than I wanted. She smiled that cruel smile that reminded me why I'd stopped inviting her to things for months. But Lily had specifically asked for Aunt Nessa at her party. She still believed her aunt loved her. Do what, Julia? Tell the truth about how these kids could thrive in a stable household? She looked directly at my neighbor, Rachel. Did you know Julia works until midnight most nights? Leaves them with babysitters who barely speak English? Rachel shifted uncomfortably. She knew I was a single mother working 2 jobs to keep us afloat. She knew I was doing my best. But Vanessa made it sound like neglect. And the apartment? Vanessa continued, her voice getting louder. 3 people in a 1-bedroom space. Milo sleeps on the couch. Lily has nightmares because there's no proper bedtime routine. Everything she said was technically true, but she made it sound criminal instead of what it was. Survival. The room went dead quiet. Milo, who was only 5, started crying because he could feel the tension. Lily put her arm around him protectively, like she'd learned to do when adults fought. That gesture broke something in my chest. My 7-year-old was already taking care of her little brother because she knew mommy couldn't handle everything. These children need structure, discipline, proper meals. Vanessa's voice had that practiced quality now. They need someone who puts them first instead of chasing career ambitions that clearly aren't working out. I felt my face burning. Career ambitions. I worked at a grocery store and cleaned offices at night. Not exactly chasing dreams, just trying to pay rent. Vanessa, you need to stop. But she was just getting started. She pulled out her phone and started showing pictures to my guests. Look at this, she said, swiping through images. I took these last weekend when they stayed over. See how happy they look? See how clean and organized everything is? The photo showed my kids in Vanessa's pristine house, wearing clothes I couldn't afford, eating meals I didn't have time to make. They did look happy, healthier, better cared for, like they belonged in her world instead of mine. Julia can't even afford to buy them proper winter coats, Vanessa announced. I had to take them shopping because they were going to school in sweatshirts in January. More truth twisted into a weapon. Dr. Stevens, my daughter's teacher, who I'd invited because Lily adored her, looked at me with something that might have been pity, or concern. I couldn't tell which was worse. I love my children, I managed to say. My voice was shaking now. Everything I do is for them. Vanessa laughed. Actually laughed. Love doesn't pay for therapy when they start acting out at school. Love doesn't give them their own bedrooms. Love doesn't provide the stability they deserve. My friend David started to stand up, probably to defend me, but Vanessa held up her hand. I'm not finished. She looked around the room like she was giving a speech. I have the financial resources. I have the time. I have a 4-bedroom house in the best school district. Most importantly, I have the energy these children need because I'm not running myself into the ground trying to prove I can do everything alone. Lily started crying then, quiet tears that she tried to hide behind her hands. She didn't understand why Aunt Nessa was saying mean things about mommy at her birthday party. Milo climbed into her lap, and they hugged each other while adults decided their fate around them. Your own children are traumatized by the instability, Vanessa said, pointing at them. Look at them. They're not crying because I'm wrong. They're crying because they know I'm right. The manipulation was breathtaking. She'd created the traumatic moment, then used their reaction as evidence. But I could see it working on some of the faces around me. The logic seemed sound if you didn't know the whole story. If you didn't know that Vanessa had never wanted children herself because they were too much work. If you didn't know she'd spent years telling me I was stupid to get pregnant so young to keep the kids after their father left. I've been researching family law, she continued. There are provisions for relatives to petition for custody when parents are unable to provide adequate care. The courts prioritize the children's best interests over parents' feelings. My blood went cold. She'd been planning this. This wasn't just a wine-fueled outburst at a birthday party. This was calculated. You've been researching what? I stood up so fast my chair fell over. The sound made everyone jump. Milo started sobbing harder. You heard me, Vanessa said calmly. I've consulted with Bradley Cooper at Cooper Family Law. He thinks we have a strong case. She'd named a lawyer. Specific details. This was real. Based on what? My voice was rising, getting shrill. Based on me working hard to support my family? Based on not having enough money to buy them everything they want? Based on documented evidence of neglect and instability? She replied, pulling out a manila folder from her purse. I've been keeping records. Records. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. What kind of records? She opened the folder and spread papers across my kitchen table. Photos of their living conditions. Documentation of missed school events because you had to work. Screenshots of your social media posts complaining about being exhausted and overwhelmed. I stared at the papers. My own words, printed out and highlighted. I can't handle both kids being sick at the same time. Milo had another meltdown at daycare today and I just wanted to cry in the parking lot. Sometimes I wonder if I'm enough for them. Normal parenting struggles turned into evidence against me. You've been stalking my Facebook? I demanded. I've been concerned about my nephew and niece, she corrected, and documenting that concern appropriately. She flipped to another page. School records showing Lily was late 23 times last semester. Medical records showing Milo's anxiety diagnosis. Photos from their bedroom showing how cramped and inadequate their living space is. Each item hit like a physical blow. Everything she listed was true, but context mattered. And Lily was late because I was working double shifts and sometimes traffic was bad. Milo had anxiety because his father abandoned him, not because of me. Their bedroom was small because I couldn't afford anything bigger, but it was clean and safe and full of love. You want to take my children away from me? I said quietly. The words felt surreal coming out of my mouth. I want to give them the life they deserve, she replied. The life you can't provide. Dr. Stevens cleared her throat. Perhaps we should discuss this privately. The children are getting upset. But Vanessa shook her head. These people need to understand what's at stake. They care about Milo and Lily too. They can see the truth even if Julia refuses to. That's when something snapped inside me. The humiliation, the manipulation, the way she'd turned my daughter's birthday party into her courtroom, the way she'd used my children's natural love for her against all of us. Fine, I said, my voice suddenly calm. You think you can do better? Prove it. Everyone looked confused, including Vanessa. What do you mean? She asked. I walked over to where my kids were sitting and knelt down. Milo, Lily, pack your things. You're going to stay with Aunt Nessa. For how long? Lily asked, still crying, until she figures out what she's gotten herself into. I looked directly at Vanessa. You want them? You can have them. Tonight. Right now. The color drained from her face. Julia, I didn't mean immediately. This needs to be done through proper legal channels. But I was already helping the kids gather their birthday presents and overnight bags. No, you made your case very clearly, in front of everyone. You have the better house, more money, more time, so prove it. Vanessa started backing away from the table. This isn't how custody transitions work. There needs to be paperwork, preparation, gradual adjustment. I laughed, but it sounded hollow even to me. Preparation? Like the preparation you did to destroy me at my daughter's birthday party? Like the preparation you did building a legal case against me without telling me? I was loading their things into bags while I talked. Mommy, I don't want to go, Milo whispered. It's just temporary, baby. Aunt Nessa thinks she knows what's best for you. I looked at my sister, who was now standing frozen by the door. Don't you? Isn't this what you wanted? The guests were all staring at us like we were characters in a movie. Some looked horrified. Others seemed fascinated by the drama. Take them, I said, holding out their bags. Show everyone how much better you can do. Vanessa's hands were shaking when she reached for the bags. Julia, you're being irrational. This isn't what I meant. But I was already putting on Lily's coat, helping Milo with his shoes. This is exactly what you meant. You've been planning this for months. You have a lawyer, you have evidence, you have the perfect house. So take them. Lily clung to my leg. I want to stay with you, Mommy. The words nearly broke me, but I forced myself to stay strong. I know, sweetheart, but Aunt Nessa thinks she can take better care of you. Let's see if she's right. I kissed both their heads and walked them to the door. My sister stood there holding their bags like they might explode. I can't just take them tonight. What about school tomorrow? What about their routine? Vanessa's voice was getting higher, panicked. Figure it out, I said. That's what good parents do. They figure it out. I opened the door and gestured for them to leave. Go ahead. Start proving your case. The kids were both crying now, confused and scared by the adult drama they didn't understand. But they went with Vanessa because they loved her and trusted her, because she'd always been the fun aunt who gave great presents and had the perfect house. After they left, my guests didn't know what to do. Some tried to comfort me, others just quietly left. Rachel stayed to help clean up, but she kept glancing at me like I might have a breakdown. Are you okay? She asked. No, I said, but I will be. I spent that night on my phone searching for family lawyers. But I wasn't planning to fight Vanessa in court. I was planning something much more strategic. By 3 a.m., I had a plan that would either save my family or destroy it completely. But after what she'd done tonight, I was willing to take that risk. The first call came at 6:30 a.m. Vanessa's voice was frantic, exhausted. Milo won't stop crying. He keeps asking when he can go home. Lily hasn't eaten anything. They both wet their beds because they were too scared to ask where the bathroom was. I let her talk, documenting everything she said. What do I do? She asked. Figure it out. I repeated. You're their guardian now. I hung up and called the first number on my list. Maria Gonzalez, family attorney, answered on the second ring. I need to file an emergency motion, I told her. My sister forcibly took my children based on false allegations, and I have witnesses. Maria was quiet for a moment. Did you willingly give her the children? Under duress and coercion? Yes. She threatened legal action in front of a room full of people if I didn't comply. That changes everything, Maria said. Can you be here in an hour? By 9 a.m., I was sitting in her office recording a detailed statement about the previous night's events. Your sister made a crucial mistake, Maria explained. She claimed to have legal grounds for taking custody, then accepted the children through intimidation rather than proper channels. That's coercion, possibly kidnapping. The second call from Vanessa came during my meeting with Maria. I put it on speaker with her permission. Julia, please, they won't stop crying. Milo had a panic attack when I tried to drop them at a different school. Lily keeps asking if you're dead because that's the only reason she can think of that you'd give them away. Vanessa was crying now, too. I can't handle this. You said you could raise them better than me, I reminded her, still recording. You said you had the energy, the resources, the stability. So handle it. Maria was taking notes, documenting Vanessa's admission that she couldn't care for them properly. Julia, please. I made a mistake. Can we talk? Through my attorney, I said, and hung up. Maria scheduled an emergency hearing for that afternoon. Judge Patricia Hayes handles these cases quickly when child welfare is involved. We'll argue that your sister's actions constitute unlawful detention and that the children need to be returned immediately pending a full custody evaluation. I felt hope for the first time in 12 hours. But Vanessa called Cooper Family Law first. By noon, I had a cease and desist letter claiming I'd abandoned my children and had no legal right to contact them. This actually helps us, Maria said, reading the letter. They're claiming abandonment, but we have witnesses to the coercion. They're also claiming legal authority they don't actually have. The emergency hearing was scheduled for 2 p.m. At 1:30, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was Dr. Stevens, Lily's teacher. I've been thinking about last night. What your sister did was wrong. I'm willing to testify about what I witnessed if it helps get the children back to you. 3 more texts followed from other guests offering to be witnesses. Judge Hayes was a stern woman in her 50s who looked like she'd heard every family sob story imaginable. Cooper Family Law had sent an associate, Nathan Mills, who immediately started arguing that this was a custody dispute between family members and should be handled through mediation, not emergency intervention. Maria countered that this was unlawful detention of children taken through threats and coercion. Let me understand this, Judge Hayes said, looking at the paperwork. Ms. Vanessa claimed she had grounds for a custody petition, used that threat to coerce her sister into surrendering the children, then accepted custody without any legal authority to do so. Nathan Mills tried to interrupt, but the judge held up her hand. Ms. Vanessa isn't even here to represent herself? She's caring for the children, Your Honor, Mills said weakly. Judge Hayes looked unimpressed. She's unlawfully detaining children she has no legal right to possess. Where are these children now? Mills admitted he wasn't sure. Vanessa hadn't returned his calls since that morning. So you're representing someone who may have fled the jurisdiction with children she's holding illegally? The judge ordered an immediate welfare check at Vanessa's address. 2 sheriff's deputies were dispatched while we waited in the courtroom. 20 minutes later, Deputy Collins called in his report. Your Honor, the children are present and appear physically unharmed but are extremely distressed. The woman Vanessa is also present and appears to be having some kind of breakdown. She's requesting immediate assistance with returning the children. Judge Hayes looked at Nathan Mills. Does your client still wish to pursue custody? Mills was frantically texting someone, probably trying to reach Vanessa or Cooper himself. Your Honor, we request a continuance to properly evaluate the situation. Motion denied. Deputy Collins, please facilitate the immediate return of these children to their mother, Ms. Julia. You'll have temporary sole custody pending a full evaluation within 30 days. I was in my car heading to Vanessa's house within minutes, Maria following in her own vehicle. The drive felt like hours, even though it was only 15 minutes. I kept imagining what I'd find when I got there. Were my kids okay? How traumatized were they? Would they blame me for sending them away in the first place? Vanessa's perfect house looked like a war zone. The front door was standing open, and I could hear crying from inside. Deputy Collins met me at the entrance. Ma'am, the children have been asking for you constantly. They're scared and confused, but not physically harmed. The woman who took them is in the kitchen having what appears to be a panic attack. I ran past him toward the crying sounds. Lily and Milo were huddled together on the living room couch, still wearing their party clothes from the night before. They looked up when they saw me, and their faces crumpled with relief. Mommy! They screamed in unison. Launching themselves into my arms, I held them both as tight as I could, breathing in their familiar smell, feeling their solid warmth against me. I thought you didn't want us anymore, Lily whispered into my neck. I thought Aunt Nessa was right that she was better. My heart broke completely hearing those words. No, baby. I will always want you. Always. Aunt Nessa was wrong about everything. Milo pulled back to look at me with his serious 5-year-old eyes. Are we going home now? Yes, I told him. We're going home right now. Deputy Collins helped us gather their scattered belongings while Maria documented the condition of the house. Toys were everywhere, like Vanessa had desperately tried to keep them entertained. There were 3 different breakfast attempts on the kitchen counter, all barely touched. A pile of children's clothes in the hallway suggested she'd tried to find something that fit them properly. I found Vanessa in the kitchen, sitting on the floor with her back against the cabinets. Her perfect hair was a mess, her designer clothes wrinkled and stained. She looked up when I walked in, and her eyes were red and swollen from crying. "I couldn't do it," she whispered. "I thought I could, but I couldn't. They kept asking for you. They wouldn't eat. They wouldn't sleep. They just cried. You destroyed my daughter's birthday party and tried to steal my children because you thought you knew better," I said. My voice was calm, but I felt like I was made of ice. "You humiliated me in front of everyone I care about. You made my kids think I didn't want them anymore. And for what? To prove a point that turned out to be completely wrong?" Vanessa couldn't look at me. "I thought I was helping them." "You thought you were helping yourself feel superior," I corrected. "You saw my struggles, and instead of offering support, you decided to replace me. You saw my children's love for you and tried to turn it into possession. You used their trust to hurt all of us." Maria appeared in the doorway. "We need to go. The children are getting upset again, and they need stability." I looked down at Vanessa one last time. "You're my sister, and I loved you. But you used that love to hurt my family. I don't know if I can forgive that." I turned and walked away, leaving her sitting on her kitchen floor surrounded by the evidence of her failure. The drive home was quiet. The kids sat in the back seat holding hands, occasionally asking questions about what had happened and why. I tried to explain in terms they could understand that sometimes adults make mistakes, that Aunt Nessa thought she was helping but wasn't, that they were safe now and would always be safe with me. Milo fell asleep before we got home, exhausted from the trauma. Our little apartment had never looked so good. Small and cramped, yes, but it was ours. It was home. I made grilled cheese sandwiches for dinner because that's what we had, and the kids ate like they were starving. "This tastes better than Aunt Nessa's food," Lily declared. "Because you made it with love," Milo added seriously. They'd learned something profound in those 18 hours about the difference between having nice things and feeling loved. That night, for the first time in months, both kids slept in my bed. We were crowded and uncomfortable, but nobody cared. They needed to be close to me, to know I wasn't going anywhere. I lay awake listening to their breathing, thinking about everything that had happened and what it meant for our future. The next morning, Vanessa's lawyer called Maria to formally withdraw from representing her. Cooper Family Law also sent a letter stating that no custody petition would be filed and apologizing for any misunderstanding about their client's intentions. Nathan Mills included a personal note saying he'd advised his firm to be more careful about taking cases based on family drama rather than actual legal merit. Maria scheduled a meeting with Child Protective Services to proactively address any concerns about my parenting. "Better to get ahead of this than wait for someone to make a complaint based on what your sister said publicly," she explained. CPS assigned our case to Diana Foster, a social worker who specialized in family preservation rather than child removal. Diana's home visit went smoothly. She saw our small space but noted how organized and clean it was, how the children interacted with me, how they talked about their daily routines and school activities. "Single parents face unique challenges," she told me. "What matters is that you're meeting your children's basic needs for safety, love, and stability. From what I see, you're doing that." She also interviewed the kids separately, age-appropriately asking about their feelings and their home life. Lily told her about how I helped with homework every night and how we had movie night on Fridays. Milo showed her his drawings on the refrigerator and explained how I made voices for all his stuffed animals during bedtime stories. Diana's report was completely favorable. 2 weeks later, I got a thick envelope in the mail. Inside was a check for $10,000 and a letter from Vanessa. "Julia, I can't undo what I did, but I can try to help fix the problems I used against you. This money should be enough for first and last month's rent on a 2-bedroom apartment in a good school district. I also found you a job interview at Morrison Elementary. They need a part-time administrative assistant and the hours work with the kids' schedules." The letter continued. "I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I manipulated everyone who loved me, including 2 innocent children, because my pride was more important than their well-being. I told myself I was helping them when I was really trying to prove I was better than you. I wasn't better. I wasn't even close." Her handwriting was shaky, like she'd been crying while writing. "The job at Morrison is real. I didn't use my influence, just passed along that they were hiring and you were looking. The money comes with no strings attached. Use it or don't. But please don't let your children suffer because of what I did to all of you. I love them, and I love you, even though I showed it in the worst possible way." I stared at the check for a long time. $10,000 would change our lives. We could move to a better apartment. I could take the school job and quit my night cleaning work. The kids could have their own bedrooms. But accepting it felt like letting Vanessa buy her way out of the consequences of her actions. Then I thought about Lily asking for her own room, and Milo talking about wanting a desk for homework. I deposited the check, not for Vanessa's sake, but for my children's. They deserved better than what I could provide on my own right now, and if their aunt's guilt money could give them that, then I'd swallow my pride and take it. But I also wrote Vanessa a letter making it clear that financial support didn't equal forgiveness or a relationship. She'd lost the right to be part of our family when she tried to destroy it. The interview at Morrison Elementary went perfectly. The principal, Mrs. Rebecca Hayes, was impressed by my organizational skills and my understanding of what parents needed from school communication. "We need someone who gets that parents are juggling multiple responsibilities," she said. "Someone who can help us be more supportive rather than just demanding." The job paid well and came with health benefits for all of us. We moved to the 2-bedroom apartment 6 weeks later. It was in the same school district, just 10 minutes from our old place. But the difference was dramatic. Lily's room had windows on 2 walls and space for a real desk. Milo's room was painted blue, his favorite color, and had built-in shelves for his books and toys. For the first time in their lives, they each had their own private space. The first night in the new apartment, I tucked them into their separate beds and felt something profound shift. This wasn't just about having more room. It was about dignity, privacy, the ability to invite friends over without embarrassment. All things I hadn't realized we'd been missing until we had them. Things Vanessa had been right about, even though her methods were completely wrong. 3 months after the custody crisis, Lily's teacher requested a parent conference. Mrs. Anderson had been documenting positive changes in Lily's behavior and academic performance since we'd moved. "She seems more confident, more settled," Mrs. Anderson explained. "Her anxiety about being late has completely disappeared, and she's participating more in class discussions. Whatever you're doing at home is working." Milo's kindergarten teacher reported similar improvements. His separation anxiety had decreased significantly, and he was making friends more easily. "He talks about his room a lot," Mrs. Chen noted. "Having his own space seems to have given him a sense of security he didn't have before." The stability of my new job meant I could volunteer for field trips and school events, which both kids loved. I hadn't spoken to Vanessa since that day at her house, but I knew from other family members that she was struggling. Our mother called occasionally with updates I didn't ask for. Vanessa had started therapy, she said. She'd taken a leave of absence from work. She'd been asking about the kids constantly, but understood she wasn't welcome to contact us directly. "She made her choices," I told my mother. "I'm glad she's getting help, but my priority is protecting my children from any more trauma." My mother, who had always favored Vanessa for her success and stability, was finally understanding the full scope of what had happened. "I never thought she'd go that far," she admitted. "I knew she judged your parenting, but I didn't think she'd actually try to take them." 6 months after everything fell apart, I was working late one evening when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Julia, this is Vanessa. I know you don't want to hear from me, but I need you to know something important. I'm not asking for forgiveness or a relationship. I just need you to have this information." A link followed to a news article about Bradley Cooper, the lawyer she'd consulted about custody. The article detailed his arrest for fabricating evidence in custody cases, specifically coaching clients to document false neglect and abuse claims against former spouses and family members. 3 families had been destroyed by his methods before someone reported him to the State Bar Association. He told me exactly what to look for and how to document it. Vanessa's follow-up text read, "I thought I was being thorough, but he was teaching me to manipulate the system." I forwarded the information to Maria, who wasn't surprised. "These predatory attorneys target emotional family situations," she explained. "They convince people that the legal system will support their feelings of moral superiority. Your sister was manipulated, but she also chose to be manipulated because it justified what she wanted to do anyway." The distinction mattered. Vanessa was a victim of legal manipulation, but she was also responsible for choosing to hurt my family. A year after Vanessa had tried to take my children, we were thriving in ways I hadn't imagined possible. My job at Morrison had led to additional opportunities. I was now coordinating parent outreach programs for the district and had been asked to speak at conferences about effective family communication. The kids were excelling in school, had made close friends in our neighborhood, and talked openly about the trauma they'd experienced. "Remember when Aunt Nessa tried to keep us at her house?" Lily asked one evening while we were making dinner together. "That was scary, but it helped us understand how much we love our real home." Milo nodded seriously, and it made Aunt Nessa learn that having a big house doesn't make you a good mommy. Their resilience amazed me. They'd processed the experience and drawn healthy conclusions from it. I'd started dating someone, Alex, a teacher from another school in the district, who understood the demands of working with children and families. The kids liked him because he brought board games and helped with homework without trying to replace their father or become their new parent too quickly. He'd heard the story of what happened with Vanessa and had been supportive without being judgmental about my decision to cut her out of our lives. "Some people think forgiveness is always the right choice," he said one evening after the kids were asleep. "But protecting your children from someone who tried to use the legal system against them isn't about being vindictive. It's about being a responsible parent." His understanding meant more to me than he probably realized. I'd spent months questioning whether I was being too harsh, too unforgiving. The final piece of closure came 18 months after everything started, when my mother called with news that Vanessa had moved across the country for a fresh start. "She wanted me to tell you she's doing well, that therapy helped her understand why she acted the way she did, and that she hopes someday you might be willing to let her send birthday cards to the kids." I listened, without commenting. "She also wanted you to know that she never filed anything with the court," my mother continued. The whole custody petition threat was a bluff to force you to let her take them. She never actually intended to go through with legal action. I felt a mix of anger and relief. Anger that she'd terrorized us with empty threats. Relief that she hadn't been planning a prolonged legal battle. Tell her I appreciate the information, I said finally. But my position hasn't changed. She used my children's love for her as a weapon against all of us. That's not something I can forgive, even if I understand why she did it. My mother sighed but didn't argue. She'd seen enough of the aftermath to understand that some damage couldn't be repaired with good intentions and therapy. That night, I sat in my own bedroom, a luxury I'd never had in the old apartment, and thought about everything we'd survived and accomplished. My children were happy, healthy, and secure. We had a beautiful home, financial stability, and a community that supported us. I had a career I loved and a partner who respected both me and my role as a mother. Vanessa had been right about one thing. My children did deserve better than what I could provide as an overwhelmed single mother working multiple minimum wage jobs. But instead of helping me become a better parent, she'd tried to replace me entirely. Her mistake had forced me to fight for my family in ways that ultimately made us all stronger. She'd wanted to give them a better life, and inadvertently, she had, just not in the way she'd planned. The next morning was a school day like any other. Lily and Milo ate breakfast in their pajamas, argued about whose turn it was to feed the goldfish we'd gotten for the new apartment, and ran around looking for backpacks and homework folders. Normal chaos that I now recognized as the sound of a family that felt secure enough to be imperfect together. "Mommy," Lily said as I was braiding her hair. Emma's mom asked if Aunt Nessa could come to the class family tree presentation next month. Emma was Lily's best friend, and her mother was someone I'd become close to through school activities. "What did you tell her?" I asked, still working on the braid. "I said Aunt Nessa moved far away and we don't see her anymore. Is that okay?" "That's perfect, sweetheart. Sometimes people have to move away when they make big mistakes." Lily nodded thoughtfully. "Like when we had to move away from the old apartment. But that was because of good changes, not mistakes." Even at 8 years old, she understood the difference between consequences and fresh starts. As I walked them to school that morning, I thought about the paradox of Vanessa's actions. She'd tried to prove she could raise my children better than I could, and in the process, she'd forced me to become the parent she'd claimed I wasn't. The crisis had pushed me to find better work, create a more stable home, and develop stronger support systems. My children were thriving, not because she'd taken them, but because I'd fought to keep them. And the custody petition she'd threatened to file was never real, but the changes it triggered in our lives were profound and lasting. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the catalyst for the best thing that could have happened. Vanessa had wanted to save my children from me, and instead, she'd saved all of us from the limitations I'd accepted as permanent. For that unintended gift, I was grateful, even as I remained unforgiving.